Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Autumn and today I am going to be doing my 2025 anticipated spring releases. I am very excited to do this video. It's the first time I'm ever really doing like an anticipated seasonal video. I am super excited. I have done a little bit of research to find some books that I think I would be interested in reading, and hopefully you will be too. I have 16 books here that I'm going to be talking about today. The spring season is from March 20th, 2025 to June 20th, 2025. We're going to be perfectly honest here. I am not going to be doing a lot of books that are going to be in June. That just doesn't work for my brain. I just can't imagine being in the middle of the heat in the summer here in South Georgia and thinking about spring. So all of the books I'm going to be talking to you guys about today are going to be mostly March and April releases, and I have some May and June releases. One more little housekeeping thing before we jump on into it. Some of these March releases are actually books that come out before March 20th. I just threw them on this list anyways because they come out in March. I'm excited for these releases and I just really wanted to talk about them with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and let's go ahead and get into the month of March. So the first book on this list that got my attention is Everything is Tuberculosis: The History and Precedents of Our Deadliest Infection by John Green. This book caught my attention because I have a huge family history, not necessarily of tuberculosis like nowadays. My grandmother's father, half of his whole family was wiped out by tuberculosis. And because I'm going back to school to get my master's degree in public health, I am very fascinated in epidemiology, trying to understand infectious diseases. This book jumped out at me and I had to talk about it. Tuberculosis has been entwined with humanity for millennia. Once romanticized as a malady of poets, today tuberculosis is seen as a disease of poverty that walks the trails of injustice and inequity we blazed for it. In 2019, author John Green met Henry Ryder, a young tuberculosis patient at Lacka Government Hospital in Sierra Leone. John became fast friends with Henry, a boy with spindly legs and a big goofy smile. In the years of his first visit at Latka, Green had become a vocal advocate for increased access to treatment and wider awareness of the healthcare inequities that allow this curable, preventable infectious disease to also be the deadliest, killing over 1 million people every year. This book sounded incredibly amazing and I have got to get my hands on it. Even if I do end up listening to the audiobook, I want to own an actual copy of this book for reasons that I have stated before. It's just this is a big part of my family history and part of public health, which is what I want to do with the rest of my life. So it just seems like something that I want on my shelves. This book comes out March 18th. I am not going to harp on this next book super long because I'm sure it's going to be on everyone's most anticipated spring release list, but it is Sunrise on the Reaping by Susan Collins. Absolutely love this series. I have read all 4 books many times. I cannot wait. I am sure we've all pre-ordered it and cannot wait to get to this one. But this book follows Haymitch's story, which is the 50th Hunger Games, which is the second quarter quell, where he gets reaped and we learn his story. And I am so freaking pumped for that. And that book also comes out on March 18th. This next one that I am going to be talking about, I have never heard of this author before. When I read the synopsis of it, I knew that this was a book that I really desperately wanted to read. This book is The Story She Left Behind by Patty Callahan Henry. So this book, the genres that it says it's under is historical, women, and literary. It says it is inspired by a true literary mystery. In 1927, 8-year-old Clara Harrington's magical childhood shatters when her mother, renowned author Brownwen Newcastle Fordham, disappears off the coast of South Carolina. She stunned the world with a book written in an inverted language that became a national sensation when she was just 12 years old. Her departure leaves behind not only a devoted husband and a heartbroken daughter, but also the hopes of ever translating the sequel of her landmark work. As the headlines focus on the missing author, Clara yearns for something far deeper and far more insatiable, her beautiful mother. By 1952, Clara is an illustrator, raising her own daughter, Winnie, when a stranger named Charlie Jameson contacts her from London, claiming to have discovered a handwritten dictionary of her mother's lost language. Clara is skeptical. Compelled by the tragedy of her mother's vanishing, she crosses the Atlantic with Wenny, only to arrive during one of London's most deadly natural disasters, the Great Smog. With asthmatic Wenny in peril, they escape the city with Charlie and find refuge in the Jamesons' family retreat nestled in the Lake District. It is there that Clara must find the courage to uncover the truth about her mother and the story she left behind. This sounds so good. I want this book so bad. So the next book on this list, which I honestly clicked on it because I thought this cover was freaking adorable and the sprayed edges are to die for. Will I ever own this book? Probably not, because this special edition is crazy expensive, but I can admire it from afar. And this is Summer in the City by Alex Aister. This is, I believe, the author who wrote Lightlark. I have never read anything by this author. This book comes out March 25th. So the synopsis was really cute, but it's pretty long, so I'm just gonna read you a little bit of it. But it says 27-year-old screenwriter Elle has a chance of a lifetime to write a big budget movie set in New York City. The only problem, she's had writer's block for months and her screenplay is due at the end of the summer. In a desperate attempt at inspiration, Elle ends up back in the city she swore she would never return to, in an apartment she could never afford, floor-to-ceiling windows, skyline views, and a new coffee shop to haunt included. It's the perfect place to write her screenplay until she realizes her new neighbor is tech billionaire bachelor Parker Warren, her stairwell hookup from 2 years ago. It's been a lovers to enemies situation ever since. And there's still like 2 or 3 paragraphs of the synopsis that I'm not going to read, but it sounds super cute. I am super into it. I might try and get this book from the library or see if I can just listen to the audiobook on Libby, but I loved the cover. I thought the cover was so cute. This next one up, okay, I want this book so bad. I want to read this book. It is All the Other Mothers Hate Me by Sarah Harmon. This book actually might already be out. I think it came out on March 11th, but I don't think the hardback comes out until like March 18th or something like that. If it's already out, whoopee. If not, just keep your eyes out for it for the rest of March. But it's a mystery thriller suspense. It also said it's supposed to be really funny and like humorous. I have to read you this full synopsis, and just this first line, y'all are just gonna fall over, because when I read this first line, I fell over. But it says, the missing boy is 10-year-old Alfie Risby, and to be perfectly honest with you, he's a little shit. I can't. I'm laughing about this poor boy who's missing and he's 10, but that's a funny line. The synopsis says, Florence Grimes is a 31-year-old party girl who always takes the easy way out. Single, broke, and unfulfilled after the humiliating end to her girl band career, she has only one reason to get out of bed each day: her 10-year-old son, Dylan. But then Alfie Risby, her son's bully and the heir to the vast frozen food empire, mysteriously vanishes during a class trip, and Dylan becomes the prime suspect. Florence, for once, is faced with the task she can't quit. She's got to find Alfie and clear her son's name, or risk losing Dylan forever. The only problem, Florence has no discernible skills, let alone detective ones, and all of the other school moms hate her. Oh, and Florence has a reason to suspect Dylan might not be as innocent as she'd like to believe. Pretty hardcore, right? That sounds so good. I love this cover to pieces, and when I hovered over it on Amazon is where I found this one. In her glasses, there's actually a person standing and they're like outlined in red, and I thought that was really cool, but that was something I couldn't see from this until I blew up the photo, which I thought was a really cool thing to add and like a small little attention to detail that I am all for. So the last book I want to talk about that comes out in the month of March is The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This author wrote The Only Good Indians and I Was a Teenage Slasher. I have not read either of those 2 books, but this one sounded so freaking cool. It is a chilling historical horror novel set in the American West in 1912, following a Lutheran priest who transcribed the life of a vampire who haunts the fields of the Blackfeet Reservation looking for justice. Sounds wicked. Sounds really cool. And this cover's pretty sweet too. Keep your eyes out for that one. It comes out March 18th as well, so just right around the corner. So those are all of the books that come out in the month of March that I have on this list, and let's go ahead and talk about the ones that are going to come out in April. The Bright Years by Sarah DeMoff. And this is actually this author's debut adult. I feel like I read that somewhere, or it might not be adult, but it's her debut novel. It comes out April 27th. 22nd. The synopsis says, one family, 4 generations, a secret son, a devastating addiction. A Texas family is met with losses and surprises of inheritance, but if they are unable to shake the pull back towards each other in this big-hearted family saga, perfect for readers of Mary Beth Kane and Claire Lombardo. I'll be totally honest, I'm not too sure who those 2 authors are. Maybe if I saw books I would know, like if I saw covers I might know. Ryan and Lillian Bright are deeply in love, recently married, and now parents to a baby girl, Georgette. But Lillian has a son she's never told Ryan about, and Ryan has an alcohol addiction he hasn't told Lillian about. So Georgette comes of age watching her parents' marriage rise and fall. When a shocking blow shatters their fragile trio, Georgette tries to distance herself from the reminders of her parents. Years later, Lillian's son comes searching for his birth family, so Georgette must return to her roots, unearth her family's history, and decide whether she can open up to love for them or herself while there's still time. Told in 3 intimate points of view, The Bright Years is a tender, true-to-life novel that explores the impact of each generation in a family torn apart by tragedy, but over time restored by the power of grace and love. I love that. I love multi-generational stories, or stories that take place over many, many years and you follow one particular family. I love that. The next one up is a author I have never read before, but she is quite popular. It is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. And this book comes out on April 1st. This cover is super cute. This cover is honestly what got my attention, and then when I realized it was an Abby Jimenez, I was like, I really need to read this author. I hear so many great things about her books. I also want to say, when I read the cover, Say You'll Remember Me, it reminded me of that Taylor Swift song, Wildest Dreams. It also like piqued my interest. I have no idea if those 2 things are related, like, you know, the Taylor Swift song in this book, but it definitely made me think of the Taylor Swift song. But this says, thousands of miles between them. Can this pair find love, or was it all a fluke? A big-hearted story about family, memory, love, and heartbreak. Abby Jimenez' latest cannot be missed. I won't read the full synopsis, but it sounds so freaking cute. Moving forward, the next book on here is going to be from Emily Henry, and it's Great Big Beautiful Life. I am sure there's a lot of people that have talked about this book, so we won't harp on it for too long, but it says 2 writers compete for a chance to sell a larger-than-life story of a woman with more than a couple of plot twists up her sleeve in this dazzling and sweeping novel from Emily Henry. This book comes out April 22nd. Super excited for it. It sounds really cute. Kind of down for it, honestly. I enjoy me and Emily Henry. They're good palette cleansers. This next book, the cover is absolutely stunning. So it is Happy Land by Dolan Perkins Valdez. It comes out April 8th. A woman learns the incredible story of a real-life American kingdom and her family ties to it. In this enthralling novel from the New York Times bestseller, NAACP Image award-winning author of Take My Hand. Nikki hasn't seen her grandmother in years. When the elder calls out of the blue with an urgent request for Nikki to visit her in the hills of western North Carolina, Nikki hesitates only for a moment. After years of silence in her family due to a mysterious estrangement between her mother and her grandmother, she's determined to learn the truth while she can. But instead of answers about the recent past, Mother Rita tells Nikki an incredible story of a kingdom on this very mountain and of her great-great-great-grandmother Luella, who became its queen. It sounds like the makings of a fairy tale, royalty among the community of freed people. But the more Nikki learns about the kingdom of the Happy Land and the lives of those who dwelled in the ruins she discovered in the woods, the more she realizes how much of her identity and her family's secrets are wrapped up in these hills. Because this land is their legacy, and it will be up to her to protect it before it, like so much else, is stolen away. It says that it is inspired by true events. Happy Land is a transporting, multi-generational novel about the stories that shape us and the dazzling courage it takes to dream. Oh, that sounds so good. I want this. So the next one up, I am so freaking excited for this book, you guys. You have no idea. The Maid's Secret by Nita Prose. And I have her other 3 books right here behind me on my shelf. I am obsessed with Molly the Maid, okay? I won't read the synopsis of this book because it's the 4th in a series, but the 3rd book was just a novella. It was a fun little Christmas read. But this one sounds so very good. But just know that this book also comes out April 8th, and I have also pre-ordered it. Our last April book before we move on to May and June, I'm going to do those two sections at once because I don't have quite so many books. I am incredibly pumped for this book. It is The Sirens by Amelia Hart. It comes out April 1st. This is the author who wrote Wayward. I have not read Wayward. Obsessed with the cover of that. Obsessed with this cover here. They are dazzling and I love how much life there is in all of them. This book takes place in 3 different timelines. The first one is in 2019. Lucy awakens from a dream to find her hands around her ex-lover's throat. Horrified, she flees to her older sister's house on the Australian coast, hoping she can help explain the strangely vivid nightmare that preceded the attack, but Jess is nowhere to be found. 1999. Jess is a lonely 16-year-old in a rural town in the middle of the continent. Diagnosed with a rare allergy to water, she has always felt different until her young, charming art teacher takes an interest in her drawings, seeing a power and maturity in them and in her that no one else sees. And the third timeline is 1800. Twin sisters Mary and Eliza have been torn from their loving father in Ireland and forced onto a convent ship bound for Australia. For their entire lives, they feared the ocean as their mother tragically drowned when they were just girls. Yet, as the boat bears them farther and farther from what they know, they begin to notice changes in their bodies that they can't explain, and they feel the sea beginning to call for them. A breathtaking tale of female resilience and the bonds of sisterhood across time and space, The Sirens captures the power of dreams and the mystery and magic of the sea. Brilliant, beautiful. I would love to read this book. It sounds like a wonderful time. It also gives me vibes of The Night Ship by, I can't remember that author's name. It's something Kid. I feel like that author's name starts with an N. I have yet to read that book, but I do own the book The Night Ship, and it kind of gives me similar vibes. I am going to talk about the May and June books that I have on this list. I'm going to combine the May and June because even though I'm sure there's a lot of books that are coming out in May and in June in like the spring timeline, I didn't really find a lot of books that I felt like I would be interested in. So that's why I decided not to just include random books on here, because I wanted to make these videos as references back to me. Like if there were books that I wanted to read and I couldn't quite remember what they were or like their names were, I can go back to this video and figure out what it was that I was talking about. I know it's a little skimpy here towards the end, but just bear with me. So this first one up is The Manor of Dreams by Christina Lee, and this book comes out May 6th. It says, Mexican Gothic meets Everything I Never Told You in Christina Lee's haunting novel about the secrets that lie in wait in the mansion of a former Hollywood starlet and the intertwined fates of these two Chinese American families fighting to inherit it. So this one is a horror, gothic, mystery, fantasy, adult thriller. They say what you don't know can't hurt you, but silence can be deadly. Vivian Yin is dead, the first Chinese actress to win an Oscar. The trailblazing ingenue rose to fame in the 80s, only to disappear from the spotlight at the height of her career and live out the rest of her life as a recluse. Now her remaining family members are gathered for the reading of her will, and her daughters expect to inherit their childhood Vivian's grand, sprawling Southern California garden estate. But due to a last-minute change to the will, the house is passed on to another family instead, one that has suddenly returned after decades of estrangement. In hopes of staking their claim, both families move into the mansion. Amidst the grief and paranoia of the family's unhappy reunion, Vivian's daughters race to piece together what happened in the last weeks of their mother's life, only to realize that they are being haunted by something much more sinister and vengeful than their regrets. After so many years of silence, will the families finally confront the painful truth about the last fateful summer they spent in the house, or will they cling to their secrets until it's too late? Told in dual timelines, I love a dual timeline. Told in dual timelines spanning 3 generations and brimming with romance, betrayal, ambition, and sacrifice, The Manor of Dreams is a thrilling family gothic that examines the true cost of the American dream and what happens when the roots we set down in this country turn to rot. Love that. I really love that synopsis. That was really well written. Very excited for that one. Can't wait to get to it. Hopefully soon. I definitely want to read Mexican Gothic this year. I have yet to read that, so I think I want to read that book first, especially since it's a comp title, and then maybe I will circle back to this book within the year. Hopefully. Who knows? The next book on this list is The Missing Half by Ashley Flowers. So this book also comes out on May 6th, and it says, two women haunted by their sister's unsolved disappearances band together in this captivating mystery from the #1 New York Times bestselling author of All Good People Here and the host of the #1 true crime podcast, Crime Junkie. I didn't know that. So this book sounds really hardcore. The only thing I would be maybe a little nervous about with this book is how old are these women when their sisters go missing, or how old are their sisters when their sisters go missing? Because I have a thing about reading about children on page, or like harm to children, so I really need to make sure I look into this and to see how old everybody is when all of this stuff is taking place. You know, like if it took place when they're like 4 or 5 and now they're 25, you know, it's like 20 years later, I might have a hard time reading if it's about them as children. Yeah, if that makes sense. I still want to look into this because it sounded really cool. Now this next one I put on here not for the cover, I'll be totally honest, and I don't know if this is the final cover for this book. I'm really not too sure. The synopsis of this sounded really good, so I put it on here anyways, but it is The Original Daughter by Jemima Way. It is this author's debut. It says, before Erin, Vivian Yang was an only child, living with her parents and grandmother in a single-room flat in the working-class Badok. Vivian is saddled with an unexpected sibling when Erin appears, the shameful legacy of a grandfather long believed to be dead. As the two girls grow closer, they must navigate the intensity of life in a place where the urgent insistence on achievement demands constant sacrifice. Knowing that failure is not an option, the sisters learn to depend entirely on one another as they spurn outside their friendships, leisure, and any semblance of a social life in pursuit of academic perfection and passage to a better future. When a stinging betrayal violently estranges Vivian and Erin, I think I keep calling her Vivian, I'm sorry, her name is Genevieve. I think I've literally said Vivian this whole time, but her name is Genevieve. Genevieve must weigh the value of ambition versus familial love, home versus the outside world, and allegiance to herself versus allegiance to the family who made her who she is. In this story of a family and its contention with the roiling changes of our rapidly modernizing winner-take-all world, The Original Daughter is a major literary debut, rifled with emotional clarity and searing social insight. That comes out May 6th, and I'm really excited for it. I think this would be a really fun and interesting and a little bit of a refreshing read. And the last book on this list is actually the only book that comes out in June. I feel like I may have slacked with this video, but you know, we do what we can. And I feel like I have to mention this book because this is one of my all-time favorite authors. But it is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. The cover of this, I just cannot get enough of it. I love it. Mwah, 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 mwah. I love it so much. And I love the synopsis of this book too. This book comes out June 10th. Set over 500 years, this tale of 3 sapphic vampires is a story about hunger, rage, and the ways in which women are told to be satiated even when they aren't. I love V.E. Schwab's writing. Those are all of the books that I have on this list that I am excited for this spring season. Let me know if there's one on here that I talked about that you're interested in, if there's a book on here that I didn't mention that you are excited about. Let me know all of that down in the comments below, but thank you so much for watching. If you're still watching and you don't know what else to say, leave me a little flower emoji down below in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.